Hello Montoomblers and welcome to Monster Hunter Wilds, a game that also warms up your home by turning your PC into a neutron star to render these high-fidelity graphics. In case you're part of the minor 99.98% of people who haven't played it, you might be wondering what the game is. But not to worry, thanks to me and the lobotomy, you won't be wondering any longer. But before I go off listing tiers, let me explain the very basics. The game begins, as any good game does, with an orphan being bullied and lost in the Sahara Desert. Unfortunately, instead of becoming food for the vultures and contributing to nature, he gets saved, and then you get tasked with finding where he came from because he somehow completely forgot how he left, and after a quick stop at the Italian restaurant for some spaghetti, you have to choose your weapon. But Vinci, I hear you cry, I am a lone singular cell organism, I can't make these decisions. Worry not, microscopic viewer. I am here with the ultimate tier list that will undoubtedly help you choose the best weapon in the only category that matters, how useful it actually is in a fight. First up, the greatsword, which is quite the heavy weapon. But it does mean that once those attacks are charged, they hurt quite a bit. The more important feature is, holy me, look out! The Power Clash, which is an exclusive. You may be able to do it using other weapons, but the greatsword is the coolest one to do it with, so it's the only one that really matters. Now, on the tier list, it lands in B tier because it's so huge and heavy that you will probably knock out your opponents without even noticing. However, if you have to fight with it, it's so slow to swing that they will probably have died of natural causes, leaving you to have to fight their spawn. Next up is the obligatory katana, which is exactly what you think. It's a decently fast weapon with magical rule of cool abilities. It does benefit a lot from the wound system. Basically, on top of breakable parts, hitting a monster over and over will result in wounds, which you can cash in for a ton of damage, free stuff, and a stun. However, that's not enough to save the longsword. The epic I sheathe my sword and my attack lands trick doesn't go down so well against an opponent. And no, you can't cut the bullet in half. This one is F tier. Now next... Holy, you sure have grown. Now in the video I made about World, which you should watch after this one, I may have been a tiny bit harsh on the sword and shield. Sword and shield, which is the baby beginner weapon. But it has grown and so have I. Sword and shield is fast and responsive with the ability to block, making it possibly the most versatile weapon in the game, but enjoyability doesn't matter for the most important factor. However, in this too, it has a crazy upset, landing itself in S tier. Thanks to having a sword and shield, you can set up a table and challenge your opponent to a game of mahjong to banish them to the lands of Yi. Truly an amazing glow up. Next are the dual blades, which are the Shadow the Hedgehog of weapons because they are fast and extremely edgy. And like Shadow, they too avoid the responsibilities of paying taxes extremely efficiently. As for self-defense, anyone carrying them seems to emit such a foul odor that no opponents have managed to approach. But it has been deemed a chemical weapon, so to avoid another incident, I have to put it down to A tier, unfortunately. Oh, now next is another heavy... The hammer, which is best suited for giving concussions in a way your ancestors would be proud of. Now, for the tier list, this one depends on user skill. If you studied the great scholars Thomason and Jeremy, you would know that after having a heavy object dropped on you, it is required to stretch and flail around, leaving you plenty of time to leave. However, if you didn't study the masters, you won't be as effective. Combined this with having to buy a new hammer each fight, makes it go down to a B tier. Next is the hammer's artist brother, the hunting horn, which functions very similarly to the hammer, but also allows you to play a sick tune that buffs all your allies, making you a better person when using it. And this is integral to the battle strategy, because when under attack, you simply need to play a quick tune to summon all your friends to protect you. This is an easy S tier. Now next is... the lance. The lance is a weapon all about defense and quick but weak attacks, which are perfect if your name doesn't start with a V and ends with 300, because in that case, you will hate this thing. But enough about the boring stuff. How well will it perform in a fight? That shield is good and all, but useless if Goku teleported behind you and instantly killed you. Which means this goes in the extremely biased tier. Next is the gun lance, which attempts to improve on the lance by not being boring and giving you damage potential at the cost of making my one brain cell very angry. Now, in the real test, it's fantastic. By just dropping the lance and using the gun, it becomes a very effective tool. So it earns a spot in A tier. Next is my beloved Switch Axe, which has 2 awesome modes and perhaps the coolest attack in the game. It also has 2 different counter attacks, one being the best power clash, which basically means that if used to counter a monster's attack, you can knock them back and get a free attack. But what about the tier list? It's absolutely worthless. What are you gonna do, stab them? Yeah, right, as if that would do anything. It's just unbelievable that they would make a weapon this bad. Absolutely bottom of F tier. Sorry, I need something to calm me down. Oh, right, here's the next weapon too. The 56 tools in one, also known as the charge blade, is a sword and shield, a switch axe, a screwdriver, and many more things. The basics of it are that you use the sword and shield mode to charge the axe mode, and then boost various things to your liking. Now for the tier list, it lands in A tier thanks to all of its uses. You could open up a can to negotiate, or cut a tree to make a fort, or use time travel mode to kill your opponent in the past. But it does rust easily, so no S tier for it. Oh, next... Get out of here, you stinky bug! The insect glaive, which uses this overgrown fly to buff itself and then win the Olympic gold medal for pole vaulting. Now, in terms of the tier list, the insect can be useful to annoy the opponent. However, this can be easily countered if they eat the bug. Meaning in the end it lands in B tier. Now next is the light submachine gun, which can fire high caliber... wrong footage. It can fire high caliber bullets at a respectable velocity. Other than being a machine gun, the light bowgun also has a wide selection of bullets to use. Even though it is a ranged weapon, you still need to stay pretty close for it to be effective. Now, for the tier list, it's the most B tier weapon ever. Using gunpowder to launch projectiles is never gonna be effective. We live in the real world, people. Things don't just move because you hit them. At least it's decently heavy, so it can be used as a club. Now next is the heavy bowgun, which uses string and magic to fire projectiles, much more likely. And unlike the heretic light variant, it is quite heavy and can fire from further away. It even has a block. Using all of these new features, it's able to land a spot in S tier by preemptively striking from 300 meters. It avoids the fight entirely. Now next up is the highest tech weapon in the roster, the homing explosive bow. And unlike the bowguns, this weapon fires pretty slow, but it makes up for it with better mobility and more damage, making it look like a good pick at first. But as soon as you are spotted utilizing it, you will be seen as an elf and 600 dwarves will appear to beat you to death with hammers, making this an F tier weapon. And that was all of them. Now that you have picked the best weapon utilizing the only tier list, you might be wondering, what are you gonna use these on other than the local orphanage? The answer is the monsters, which there are many of, and they are all wanted criminals for a variety of reasons. So to best take them down, you should learn as much as possible about them, like their type weakness, which there are 5 of, or what trap they're susceptible to. So just as Sun Tzu once said, "Can you pass me the toilet paper?" Meaning, of course, that you need to know everything about your enemy. So I created a tier list to help with learning about the private life of every monster. This is the tier list of all the monsters' hobbies, which they partake in when they aren't around trying to kill you. So let's start with this one, the Lalabarina. It's a flower spider that paralyzes you using its venom, and just like any good bug, it goes away if you set it on fire. In terms of hobbies, you would think it would be gardening, but actually that's just a day job for it. Its hobby is actually reverse climate activism. It has like 20 coal power plants that run 24/7 just to pollute, and it spends many hard nights planning how to destroy the environment further. This gets it a F tier for trying to kill my fellow bananas. This information, however, can be used to enrage it by quoting positive facts about the environment. Now next is the Blangonga, which is a monkey that got left in the freezer for just a bit too long. So now it freezes you with its punches, and just like an upgraded monkey, it's weak to fire and electricity. As for its hobby, it's actually the bass player for The Chimps, a band it made with a couple other monkeys 16 years ago, and they just learned their first song recently. Just like any musician, if you point out the cost of its instruments, it will spiral in a fit of depression, making it vulnerable to attacks. Now this lands as a solid A tier. I liked their previous album where they just broke all their instruments, a bit more though. Next is the new Udra. Ew, why is it sticky? The new Udra is a living oil spill that for some reason also uses fire, which doesn't set it on fire, meaning that the oil covering it is the result of bathing in crude oil for 75 years and not regular oil. Which is to be expected, after all its day job is being an oil tycoon, a job it must love since its hobby is oil tasting. It is one of the lucky few that managed to get a job related to its hobby. In a fight, you can say that you think an Alaskan aged tastes quite superior to an Irani black, to set it off on a 5-hour ramble about taste composition and mouthfeel, which you can then use to attack. It is a B tier hobby because it has no idea what it's talking about. It's a superior taste and gives better aftertaste, you dunce. Anyway, next is the Jindad, an extremely overgrown lizard which ate 20 copies of Frozen and can now use ice magic. Just like any ice wizard, its power is no use against a $2 lighter, so all you really have to do is set it on fire. In terms of hobbies, they are fashion magazines, DIY, collecting makeup, plastic modeling, giant robots, sightseeing, fish. Jeez, now I get why it's only available occasionally. I'm sure there's gotta be at least one S tier hobby in there. So now next is, the poster boy, the Arkvel, which after playing League for 57 hours straight every day, it decided to permanently cosplay its favorite champion. The weirdest thing then is that it's not weakest to water. As a hobby, the Arkvel does a bit of tinkering and creates contraptions like this one. Aw, the Arkvel made me a little something. Oh, that definitely bumps it up to S tier. So next is... The gift blew up. And where did the monsters go? They fell all the way down. Well, I can't be bothered to get them, so you'll just have to discover the rest yourselves. Now, monsters and weapons are good and all, but you need a story to tie it all together. So the next tier list will be about the entire story, which starts at the intro and then... And I know it's like a hot take, but yes, I do think Friday should be deleted. But getting back on track, the whole story was story-like. Now, I could sit here and explain every other mechanic in the game, but I have a far better tool for this. The everything tier list. This piece of rock, easy A tier. This NPC, B tier. This sun, F tier. Yuck! You, S tier for getting this far. Everything is a solid... I may have gotten a bit too excited there, and now I have been banned from listing any tiers ever again. But hey, the game gets a neutron star out of 10. Now like, subscribe, and comment your favorite tier, because remember, the subscribe button is S tier. That's right, you can't stop me.